Hi everyone, it's Carol here, the founder of the Sleep Success Academy. And in today's video, I wanted to answer a question I received from a viewer on one of my videos that I did a while ago. So about 6 months ago, I recorded this video. The title of it is, What is going on when your mind is calm, but you still can't sleep because your nervous system is activated? And in that video, I had shared how in our nervous system, we had more than one state. So I'm not going to go through all of it again. So if you want to go watch that video, it's linked down here somewheres. But I had explained how this person was doing somatic work. And when we think of somatic, it's the body. A lot of us have this energy, this like, oh, energy, like this constant anxiety feeling energy. So we can call it sympathetic energy. And it's wanting to release. And I had done this movement, it wants to release, right? But on top of it, we're putting this freeze layer. Our nervous system is kind of like shutting it down, but it's still happening underneath. And so I had given an example in that video, a visual of what that looks like, of having the brake and the gas on at the same time in the car. But you could also think about a duck on a pond, right? So he's swimming quite calmly, but underneath his feet are going 100 miles an hour to stay afloat. And really, that's called the functional freeze state of our nervous system. So many of us live in this functional freeze because we have busy lives. Society has us working, doing all these activities, trying to keep up with the Joneses. And even if we're not doing all that, life itself is like go, go, go. And so we're trying to manage life and have this cool demeanor because everybody's like, oh, you need to be calm, you need to meditate. And we get this belief system created that I have to do all this work to be this Zen person. But underneath it, my feet are going 100 miles an hour. And this is the energy that's happening. So that was that video. But a question that this viewer asked from that, and it's from Tim Barrett, at one Tim Barrett. He says, a genuine question here. Is it possible that somatic work in itself can become an elaborate anxiety-inducing sleep effort? Right? And I'm going to say, yes, it can. And I'll explain that. And then he says, thank you, by the way, for this thought-provoking video. And I'm welcome. And I'm happy that I made you think. Because that's what I want, is people to start taking responsibility for their own healing journey. And how can we get the education, the information that we need, the tools, the resources, so that you can then start being your own sleep guru. Let's talk about how somatic work, or any other work, can be something that we do out of a desperate energy to fix ourselves, right? And when that happens, then it is sleep-inducing sleep effort. That's what I would call it. He hit the nail on the head when he says, can this be? And it's a genuine question. Well, of course it is. Anything that we do, whether it be tapping, whether it be somatic work, whether it be having a strict bedtime routine, whether it be, name it, if we're doing it out of this desperate energy that I need to fix something because there's something wrong with me because I can't sleep, then any of it will induce anxiety. That's been my experience. However, when we do somatic work, I'll explain, and I'm not quite an expert in somatic work. I've done a lot of training in it, but I don't have any certification in it. I guess that's why I'm not an expert, but I know a lot about the nervous system. I'll explain what happened to me as I started my healing journey, adding somatic work. So for you, if you're doing somatic work, I really want people to understand, whether it's tapping, somatic work, whatever it is, we've got to go slow. We've got to titrate. We've got to build the capacity in our nervous system to be able to feel what it couldn't feel before. It's like, like say I had a bottle of pop here, and inside of it, like I shake the pop. This is water, but say I was shaking pop and I went to open it, it would go everywhere. And it's the same with our nervous system. So when we are feeling all this intensity inside our nervous system, but we've had the freeze come on, right? The freeze is like that layer of freeze that makes it so that we don't feel as much anymore. And we're starting to use somatic work to release that freeze. The minute we lift that freeze, all this sympathetic energy is going to want to come out. So if you haven't watched the other video where I explained this better, go watch that as well. But when that sympathetic energy comes out, I don't want to just rip off the Band-Aid, because then my nervous system will not be able to handle all of this. And so what happens, I think, is where people start thinking, well, I'm doing the somatic work it's not working because I feel worse, but I'm going to keep doing it. And then they feel worse and they feel worse. And then it builds this extra layer of anxiety that it's not working and not sleeping. Because often, even with myself, when I started releasing the freeze, so this is a personal share of my journey through somatic work. Once I understood that my nervous system was in this functional freeze, 99% of the population is like this. And I needed to kind of start working towards releasing that so I could find my life force energy again to be able to live the life that I wanted, have more energy, be able to build this business, all the things I wanted to do, but that I couldn't because I didn't have enough capacity in my nervous system because I held a lot of repressed trauma. So here's a definition of the word trauma for the context of my work is anything that has dysregulated my nervous system. So it's not the event that's happened. It's the fact that whatever happened caused my nervous system to overwhelm. And because it overwhelmed, I shut down and that caused the trauma. And a really simple one that most people will say that's not trauma was having an email box with over 900 emails at my work that I wasn't able to keep up. So every time I opened my email box, I got another shot in my nervous system going, there's just no way I can do all this. And the repetitiveness of that over years caused dysregulation in my nervous system. So then I would say I had email trauma, right? But it's not trauma in the sense of like being beaten or being in a car accident, but it's still a dysregulation in the nervous system. Therefore, my nervous system had to shut down to freeze in order for me to be able to manage that email box every day. See what I mean? Like it's not always the big things that we think of. Sometimes it's the little things, but they're repetitive over time. So when I realized this, I had stopped working back in 2017. If you've listened to my story, I wasn't able to sleep. I was always stuck on. My nervous system had no choice but to freeze. Then I started doing somatic work. I had been doing tapping for a while, added somatic work, and I really got into the education of what happens in our body. When we start lifting the freeze, my experience was like getting like cold chills from inside out. And if you don't know what's happening, that's scary. And that's why you have to find the correct person to help you through it. And I have my own somatic practitioner, and I've been in different programs that explain the nervous system. And so I recognized that my freeze was lifting. And as excited as I was, because I was in that moment, I'm thinking, this work is working, I'm lifting, and I wanted to do more, which we all do. And I did too much. I didn't titrate the work. I didn't just lift a little. I was like, I'm just going to keep going full force, that desperate energy, guilty of it as well. Then that sympathetic energy started to release, and it was too much. And so what would happen is I would release, I would feel all this anxiety, and I called it body anxiety, because it's like my body was on fire, but my mind was calm. So that's why it was easy for me to explain that in that other video, what happens when your mind is calm, but you're feeling all this in your body and you can't sleep. Well, that's what's happening, is that the freeze has lifted, but it's not anything to do with the mind, it's with the body. And now this has to release. The body sensations need to be processed and released. But we can only process as fast as our nervous system has the capacity to process it. When I say that again, we can only process and integrate this release of energy that's happening at the speed that our nervous system is able to tolerate it. If not, we're just going to cause overwhelm again. You could call it re-traumatization again, and we're going to shut down again, which is actually beautiful that the nervous system does that, because if not, it's just too much. So I remember going through a period about a year or two ago where I felt a lot of this, and I was like, what's going on? I felt like something was wrong with me when there wasn't. And during that month when this happened worse, I had a lot of hard time sleeping because this was happening in my body. And then I added tapping to it. And so in my program, I really teach this holding the truth tapping technique. And in that, it's just really what is happening in the moment. So we're not tapping on past event or anything. We're just sitting with ourselves, what's happening. And I would say, even though my body feels all this body anxiety right now. So I tap on the side of the hand. I'm having all this body anxiety right now. And it feels uncomfortable. Right here, right now, I'm doing the best that I can. And even though I'm having this body anxiety right now, feels awful. I wish it would end. But right now I'm understanding that it's part of the healing process. And so I think there's missing information in the healing world, and that's my opinion only. The information that it's missing is that it doesn't feel good to heal. We all think, oh, I'm going to have this big release and then I'm going to feel good and I'm going to sleep well. But that's not the truth. That's not what people, it might happen for some, but it's not for the majority. So tapping through all that, I started to have compassion for what was happening. I started to understand it. And because I had the education behind it, I could understand it. And therefore, doing somatic work became something that I do every day. Same with my tapping, but it's no longer anxiety inducing. Does that make sense? It's really in your intention with doing the work. I'll read the question again, and I'll just want everybody to say that this answered the question. I hope that it did. So the question was, is it possible that somatic work in itself can become an elaborate anxiety-inducing sleep effort? Yes, it can. And there are ways around that as well, because somatic work is phenomenal. My experience has been amazing with it. My next training will be to become a somatic practitioner for sure, because now that I've experienced it in myself, I know the power of it. And therefore, I also know though, and so this is the one last thing I'll add before I end this video, because I know I did a lot of talking, but it's very exciting to me that once we understand, once we have the education on board, once we know what is happening in our body, it's not wrong. It's actually what needs to happen in order for the healing to happen, in order for my sleep to come back. Once I know that, I still have bouts of anxiety every day. But you know what? I sit with it and I go, oh, wow, cool. Because I'm understanding what's happening. And so, how would it be for you to know this anxiety is not wrong? This sleep effort that I'm doing is not wrong. I might be using desperate energy, but how could I have compassion towards myself because I don't know any other way? I'll leave you with, if you want more information about anything that I do, I have a YouTube channel full of stuff. Go to my website as well, sleepsuccessacademy.com. I have a free resource tab, and there's a few things there now, but as I grow and continue my journey to better sleep for myself, there'll be more stuff there as I go along. So join my email list and you can get the information as things are posted. At the same time, if you think that this would help anybody who is struggling right now, that could listen and hear this message, and it would make them understand themselves better, understand their nervous system better, make them know that they're not alone and that they're not wrong in what they're feeling. It's just the truth of what they're feeling in the moment. Please share this video with them so that they can also get the education and the resources they need. That's it for today.